Hello everyone. So here in this video we are going to learn what is debugging and how to debug and what is log, what is debug cell, all these things. Okay. So basically before starting I want to tell like what debugging actually means. Okay. So debugging is like running your code step by step to see. Okay. Like which line is executing at uh, at a point. So what happens in Java is any application you start, it executes line by line in an order. So like when you run your application, you cannot set each line what it is actually happening. Okay. So somewhere you write a pseudocode and you know like what it is actually happening for small codes. But for large applications, you should know like what it actually is happening by executing it line by line. Then you can know like at certain point what it is doing. Correct. So whenever like you get any bugs or any errors, like debugging is like a very important thing. So for those who are experienced, it'll be easy. For the freshers, it'll be like a little confusing initially. But like if you know these basic things and you practice once the debugging, you get habituated with, it'll be easy for you. Okay. So like instead of guessing debugging, like so like what the program is actually it is doing. Correct. So basically there will be something like known as breakpoints, okay, in which we will be doing like step by step executing, and also like we can inspect each variable. Correct. So for example, you are passing an pojo, an object, so what values it is storing, or if you want to change any value at runtime, okay. So for example, anything you send it in a postman, right? Any entry you are creating or any request you are sending, like you cannot change anything at the runtime. But if you use debug cell along with like the what in Eclipse, so you can like change variables at runtime and see like with each value what actually is happening. So okay, so everyone might be knowing what is log. Okay, so I'll be telling you like what is a log also. Like in this video, I'll be tell you like how to use log also. So basically, like log will tell like what happened. Okay, so which is already executed, and it will tell you like what happened already. But like debugging will help you to know like why it has happened. Okay, like something already like executed, so why it is doing like that. So I don't want to waste most of your time. I directly want to jump into a simple Spring project which I have done for like you to show you. Okay. So this is my main application. So this is my controller and this is my service. Okay. And I'll be having an Pojo. This is my model. So which I'll be using. I'll send a post request. In this post request, I'll create an entry of this user in the DB. Okay. So here I have created an enum which is known as roles. So here have three roles, and this is my repository. Okay, so repository is used to interact with the DB, so in which it can what we can perform different CRUD operations. Okay, so basically you might be knowing what is a CRUD repository, like what is a, so like you might be knowing like what is this CRUD operation. Okay, so create, read, update or delete. So if you want, I can make another video where you can know like what actually is happening. Okay, let's not waste our time and start our application. So this is my what controller. So from this is the point from where all the execution starts. So it actually starts my what from the main application, but like the API starts hitting from here. Okay, so let's start this application's debug mode. First, you have to start any project in the debug mode. It is same for Mac OS or also in Windows. So I've started my application. Just give it a second. Once. Okay. So as you can see, this has started in the port 8080. So all these are defined in the application properties. You can check it out here. So in this application properties, you can define many things. So this will be my DB name. Okay, this is the place where all like operations, like it acts as DB. Okay, so this is my username. This is my username. This is password, and it's I'm creating it as an update. So what happens when you write update is every time you run your application, right, it keeps the present values, it updates on top of it. Okay, it never creates a new entry. So for example, you have created any, okay, I'll tell you all this in the next video, but let's learn like how to debug. Okay, so this is my controller. So this is simply a post request where I'll be using to create a user. Okay, so what is our user? So basically you can see it here. So in that user we are taking these values. Okay, so simply we'll take this as an what as a parameter and we'll pass it to the service. This service I have written some methods which will check what it's doing. So these are all like demo codes I have written to show it to you. Okay, so let's start our debugging. Okay, so basically let's go to the controller. We saw this, the endpoint for this is create user and it's a post mapping. Okay, and you already saw the port is running in the port, the application running in the port 8080. correct? So now let's go to Postman. So you can see my port is running at 8080 port and the API endpoint is create user. Okay. So in the body I'm passing username, email, mobile number, role and password. Okay. So basically you can see this here. Just give me a second. Okay. Yeah. So you can see the username, email, mobile number, role and password. Okay. It should match to the body which we are like passing in the Postman. Okay. So this ID is auto generated, so Spring will automatically generate these values for it. So that's why I'm not passing the ID. So this I'm taking as a primary key and I'm passing these values, correct? So in the roles also you can see I have passed user, admin and moderator. So yeah, so username, email, I'm passing these values. Now when I pass these values in the Pojo, now I'll keep a breakpoint. So what is a breakpoint? Breakpoint simply means a stop point. Okay. So as the application start from this API. So here I kept a pointer, you can see. So to keep any pointer, just you have to double click here. Okay. So already I kept a pointer at line number 27. Now I'll go to my application. Now I'll send a request. Okay. When I'm sending the application, if you've not started in debug mode, okay. So what would actually happen is directly it would have performed the what the operation which we have given it. So without any breakpoint it would have called this method create user. It could have called this service. Okay, if you go according to flow. So what this service will check if the user is null, the object which you're passing it is check it as null or not, then it will directly save. So save operation performed by the JPA repository, which is already like inbuilt part of the Spring. Okay, got it. So now as I kept a breakpoint, right? As I kept a breakpoint here, the application stopped here. Okay, you can see here this is a stack trace. So it'll tell like at this point at line number 27, the application is paused. Correct. Now when the application paused, what you have to do is you can like you can see different. This is what this method is resume. So what happens is resume is it goes to the next breakpoint. So here I kept a breakpoint, the next breakpoint I kept it in the user register. Okay, so basically if you go according to flow, this method will be called and from here I'm calling this method, so it will go inside this exact method and here I kept one more pointer. Now if I click F8, okay, it will come to the line number 25 of this one. Got it? So okay, now I'm pressing F8. Now you can see, sorry, we'll call it 25 number method. So it was 27, you can see here. Now I call line number 25. So now you can see the user. Okay, now in the user you can see different values which I passed in the Pojo. So Chintu at that example, I passed a mobile number, I passed a password. So role I passed here as an annum, which is like user, and you can see the username also. Correct. Now when I do F6, what F6 does is it executes everything line by line. So now I'm at line number 25. So what F8 actually do? It goes to the next pointer. Okay. So if there are two pointers, point A and B, it directly jumps from point A to point B. Now what F6 do actually is it goes line by line without jumping to the next pointer. So let's go. Now I'll click F6. Okay. You can see now when I do f user.get username, you can see here. Okay, there is a username, right, Chintu. So this won't execute because it is not null. Correct. So to go to the next line, it get role, is role null, not null. So this is executed line by line. So how I'm doing this? I'm doing this with the help of F6. Okay, so now when I do one more time F6, this will call the user like JPA repository. Okay, JPA repository and it will execute the same method. Okay, now I clicked F5. Now what I clicked? Now I clicked F5. So what F5 does is it directly goes inside that method, like what this method actually does. Okay, so what I told you three important things. One is F6, F8 and F5. So what F8 does is it jumps from one point to the another point. Okay, like from one breakpoint to the another breakpoint. Now what F6 does, F6 goes executes everything line by line. So at each line you can see what actually is happening. And what F5 does, F5 goes inside any method which you want to. Correct? Okay, now let's see. Okay, now I'm skipping it. Okay, now there is no more pointer, so I'm clicking F8, so which will directly create me an entry. Now I'll go to Postman. You can see the success message. Why I got a success message? Because it saved in the database. So I showed you the table. This is my what DB name. So I'm using this table. So this is my table name. Okay, I'll show you the tables first. So my table name is registered user. So I'll do select star from registered user. Okay, you can see duplicate entries because like I have hit, like I used that endpoint multiple times, so that's why you can see like many duplicate entries. So only the ID is primary key, so there is like no check if there is already existing or not. Okay, so yeah, so this is how basically a debugging thing works, correct? Now I'll tell you one more. Now I'll tell you one more important thing, what is known as debug cell. Okay, so I'll show you. Now the name is Chintu, right? I'm passing from the endpoint. The name is Chintu. Now I'm hitting this. Okay, so now my pointer is at here. At this point, you can see. Now what is my user value? So if you see my username, it is Chintu. So what one more thing you can do here is I want to change my name. So what you will do as a like beginner is you'll stop this program again, you will change your name in the postman and try to hit the program. But what else I can do is in this search bar I can say debug cell. In this debug cell I'll get what I can do here is I can execute anything at the runtime, correct? So what I'll do now is I'll write user dot set. Okay, user dot set username. So what is accepting? It is accepting a string. So let's take something as java test, correct? So now I want to, now the username is Chintu, you got it? Now I want to keep change the username at runtime. So what I can do, I can like select this line and execute this line. Okay, now if I go and hover over it, or you can click Ctrl Shift I, you can see the username is changed to Java test at the runtime, right? This is one of the important thing of the debug cell. So what you can do with debug cell is you can change any values at the runtime, correct? So I'll click F6. You can still see here the username Java test because I changed at the runtime at that point, correct? Now I'll do F8. If I go to my DB again I'll run this query. See, I passed Java test in the endpoint, but what I can see is, sorry, I passed into, but what I can see is Java test. Okay, so this is done using the debug cell. Got it? So now I'll tell you a few examples where this is very important for you. Okay, so basically I kept here a null check. Okay, so basically you have used string util class, but I have not used any string utils class. So what I'm doing is if the username is null, I'll throw a bad exception like please provide username. So for now I'm passing the username, right? I'll remove this username. Okay, now I've removed a username. Again I'll try to send it. I'll click F6, it will go to next line. Okay, now you can see what is that username. Username is null, you can see it here. I'll do F6. Now what you can do, you can select this one. Okay, and click Control Shift I. 1 second. Okay, I have selected an extra bracket. So basically you have to select this whole thing and you have to do Control Shift I. So this is true, right? Because it is not null. So now what will happen is if this value is null, what I'm doing, I'm throwing an exception. What is it? Please provide username. This is a bad request exception. What is bad request exception? You will see it here in the postman. So you'll get a 400 as a bad request exception. Got it, right? So why I'm getting this? I have not passed any username. So let's do one more thing. Let's send this request. Okay. Now you saw this. Now you came here. Now you have executed this. The username is null. So I want to set the username because I forgot to pass it in the endpoint. So you can see it here. The username is null. I'll run this. I ran this. Okay. Now you can see the username is Java test. Now if you do Control Shift I over this thing, right? It is false. Why? Because there is already username which I already set from the debug cell. Okay, these things you can do it from the debug cell or from the Eclipse debug mode when you run it in the debug mode. Normal mode when you start you cannot do anything. Okay, so yeah, now this will be saved. Got it? So now I want to tell few more things here. If you go here, 1 second. Okay, okay, so this was my endpoint. I started all from here. Now it went inside this. Now I went. So how I'm going, you have to know many keyboard shortcuts. Okay, this is called breakpoint. Okay, to go inside method you can do like F3. Okay, or like control click. Okay, for Windows it is command, for Mac it is command click. So yeah, this is like a short description of how you can debug. So how this can be used. Okay, so whenever you're creating any entries in DB, okay, if some field is like compulsory or it's a mandatory field, okay, it should not be null. Okay, if you pass it null, right, the execution will fail. The DB cannot be saved. like the entry cannot be saved in the database. So you have to, like, when you're working with large projects, right, you have to know like what actually is happening. You have to know like line by line what actually the things is executing. Okay, so this is a simple application, so you can easily know the flow. Okay, I'll show you one more thing. So basically if you go through the flow, it is like simply taking a request body as a user, so it is passing it to the service. In the service, it is like, I have not written any method, I just to show it, I wrote you. So you can write here one more exception, like throw new exception. So you can send your bad request exception. So you can write here, please provide like role. Okay, these are the things which you can do. So basically why I'm using this debug cell is, basically if you don't know like how to debug, right, you cannot work or sustain in any corporate things. So you should basically know how debug is working and how it is done. So what I actually said for you right now is, like, I said you few shortcuts. One is F5, F6, F8. Okay, and one more thing is debug cell. Correct. Now what F5 does, what F6 does, what F8 does, already discussed. So F8, what it will do is, it will jump from pointer to pointer. So if you kept a pointer at line number 27, or for example you kept at line number 28, one more pointer you kept at 39. So when I click F8, so it will directly jump from 28 number line to 39 number line. Okay. But if I click F6, right, so it will execute 28, then 29, then 30, then 32. Okay, in this order wise it will go. But when I click F8, what it will do is, it will directly jump to the next pointer. What F5 does, I already said. What F5 will do is, F5 will go inside any method. For example, there is I'll show you one method. So this is calling another method, right, line number 27. So either you can like do control click and keep here a pointer, or else what you can do is, when the pointer comes here, right, when the pointer comes here, when the execution starts here, you can click F5. When you click F5, it will directly go inside this method and start executing from this line. Okay, so yeah, debug cell, I said you how we can change values in runtime. That's it for these videos. If you want any more help or any suggestions, you can tell me. Okay, uh, that's it for this video. Thank you guys, hope you enjoy this. Please subscribe and like.